I'm Veronica Josephine and welcome to London Speaks. Every year, the World Health Organization celebrates the World No Tobacco Day on the 31st of May to raise awareness of the dangers tobacco use poses to public health. Figures show that the global tobacco epidemic kills nearly 6 million people a year, of which 600,000 of those are people exposed to secondhand smoke. In the program, we are joined by a community pharmacist who is going to give us an insight on why people become addicted to smoking. And we shall also be talking to Amanda Da Costa, who is trying to give up smoking for good, but has not yet been successful. And later on in the program, we shall speak to Beatrice Monje, who will share with us her experience of smoking and how she managed to quit the habit for good.
As a pharmacist, I would like to address some of the frequently asked questions by customers about smoking. Cigarette smoke contains 4,000 items, 60 of which can be cancerous. Nicotine, once inhaled, gets into the bloodstream and then travels to the brain and stimulates the brain. Now, for someone who regularly smokes, when they stop smoking, and the levels of nicotine in their bloodstream fall below a certain level, they get withdrawal symptoms. Withdrawal symptoms are symptoms like irritability, dizziness, restlessness, increased appetite, and they end up feeling like they are craving for a cigarette.
Amanda, when did you start smoking?
At the age of 14.
At the age of 14?
Yeah.
And how long have you been smoking?
12 years.
What made you start smoking?
First of all, it was the influence of friends. Then became like a stress relief sort of thing. So I just started smoking because, I just continued on smoking because I was stressed out. So I had a lot of problems going on in my life.
Yes.
And I only found cigarettes the only way of calming myself down.
Whenever you feel stressed, that's when you get a trigger.
Yeah, or when I start feeling tensed, then that's when I'll go outside for a cigarette, or I'll just go out there, just have a little breather sort of thing.
So does it worry you that smoking can cause lung cancer and heart disease?
Yeah, but I've tried like 4 times to give up, but all the stuff they gave me just the patches and they don't work.
Have the smoking advisors given you any other option that can help you give up smoking?
No, but it's all part of willpower if you can handle it. But I couldn't handle it. I was going cold turkey.
Yes.
And I was getting really moody, snappy. So I get like a sort of fuzzy feeling sort of thing. So basically your brain cells are telling you need a cigarette and stuff like that. That's what was happening with me. I tried it with my son. I've done it for 3 days and I still couldn't do it.
So if the nicotine inhaler didn't work for you and the nicotine patch, what about the nicotine gum?
I can't have that. I've tried it once before because me and my boyfriend were trying to give up together.
Yes. And
it was actually making us vomit. We were vomiting because of the taste and the texture of it. It was making us feel really ill. So we thought, no, we can't do that.
Okay.
Nicotine replacement therapy does not make you stop smoking, but it aids your determination to stop.
Today I'm joined by Beatrice Monje, who is going to share with us her experience of smoking and how she managed to quit the habit for good. Beatrice, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be with you today.
So, why did you start smoking?
I started smoking at the age of 14. I was very young. My friends used to smoke as well. And my parents, both my mother and father, used to smoke. So I decided just to be like the others, and I stole the first cigarette from my mom's bag. And
you stole it?
I did.
Okay.
And I smoked it in my bedroom on my own, just trying to learn how to smoke. So I was young and immature, and I didn't know the consequences for my health.
Well, most smokers say that they smoke in order to relieve things like stress, anxiety, if they're irritated. So in your particular case, what did smoking help you relieve?
So at the beginning, I think I didn't smoke because I needed it. I just smoked because other people were smoking around me, my friends in secondary school. Little by little, I became addicted, and then I smoked more when I was nervous or when I was stressed about things. So I thought it was helping me to cope with the stress and with the pressure at work or family. But now that I stopped, I don't think it was really helping me. I thought it was helping me, but I don't think it was. One of the reasons why I decided to stop was not to be a model for my children. So because I don't want my children to start smoking.
Smoking is a habit that comes with its own risks. Of course, it leaves you out of pocket. You know, there is a risk of getting lung cancer. There is a risk of becoming infertile, and of course for men it can cause impotence. So at the time when you are still smoking, did you really think about the risks involved?
I think when I was young, at the beginning, I didn't think about the risk involved. I just started smoking. But little by little, with age, I smoked for 20 years. I started when I was 14, so I was very young.
Yeah.
Little by little, when I was 20-something, I started to realize how I couldn't do as much exercise. I couldn't run. My lung capacity was decreasing. I was developing a little bit of asthma, so that scared me as well.
Yes.
And so I was more and more aware of the health, the risk I was taking with my own health, little by little. And that as well made me want to stop.
You know, as a mother during pregnancy, you know, it's always advised that it can cause stillbirth, you know, it can cause low birth weight, it can cause a miscarriage, you know. Were you worried about these issues during pregnancy?
I was very worried. And I always felt very guilty about the smoking. And very guilty because I couldn't stop at the time of my pregnancies. I didn't manage to stop. I managed to decrease the amount of cigarettes I smoke per day. But I never managed to stop. So that I was always worried that my children may not be developing healthier. And I was always worried about their size, because one of the risks when you smoke is that you have small babies.
Yes.
So yes, I was worried.
Whenever, for example, you went to the health visitor or your midwife, were they encouraging you to stop?
They always encouraged me to stop. But I think at the time of pregnancies you have other worries as well. So some women manage to stop when they become pregnant. I didn't manage. In fact, I stopped smoking after I had my third child. But yes, everybody encouraged me to stop. But I didn't manage to find the strength or the motivation or the peace of mind as well to stop.
On a typical day, how many cigarettes were you smoking?
So when I was not pregnant, I used to smoke around 30 cigarettes per day. So that's many.
Very many.
When I was pregnant, much less, of course, 5, 6, 7. So it was very different. But when I wasn't pregnant, up to 30 cigarettes. That was as well very expensive for me. I didn't have a lot of money, and so it was becoming very, very heavy.
How did you budget for the smoking and buying things for the children?
I budget as best as I could. So yes, I mean, I was addicted to cigarettes, so I always had to buy the cigarettes every day, you know. So you don't do other things. I didn't go to the cinema, or I didn't buy the book I really wanted to read, or I didn't buy as many clothes, you know, to prioritize the cigarettes, which in the UK are extremely expensive.
Yes.
So I always gave priority to the cigarettes.
Have you noticed any difference from the time you stopped smoking to your skin?
it's a very interesting question because everybody says my skin is much better since I stopped smoking. I notice it myself, but mostly my friends and my family have noticed your skin looks really bright and more moisture, and you look better. Your skin looks better. Since I stopped smoking, I put on weight.
Okay.
And that I found difficult to control because, of course, when you smoke a lot for many years, your hands, you're using all the time your hands. So when you stop smoking, you don't know what to do with your hands, you don't know what to do with your mouth.
Okay.
So you eat more and maybe unhealthy things like one biscuit or one piece of chocolate or a couple of crisps. So I put on weight.
As a result of stopping smoking, your taste must have improved. So
as well.
Could it have increased your appetite for food?
Yes, maybe. The doctor explained to me that it's very normal to put on weight in the few months after you stop smoking, because you are bored, because you have a bit of anxiety about not smoking, because you find your hands being one thing too many.
Okay.
So apparently, and then of course as well your taste improves, so you enjoy a little bit more the food.
Yeah.
Cigarettes are as well appetite depressant. So when you stop smoking, you want to eat a little bit more. But the doctor explained to me as well that that improves with time. Okay. So after 1 year or 2 years, you are more able to control that.
As a mother, and the fact that you had your children and you are still smoking, so how did you protect your children from secondhand smoke?
So that was one of, I would say, was my greater motivation to stop smoking, was because I have 3 children and I didn't want to expose them to passive smoking. I would often smoke outside in the balcony, or the children were in the living room, I would be in the kitchen smoking. So I felt that I had always to put my children aside, away from me, in order to smoke. And I felt that I felt a slave of the cigarettes all the time, having to put my babies on one side for me to smoke. So of course I was protecting them from passive smoking, but I was feeling really bad all the time.
Okay.
And so that made me feel I want to stop smoking. I don't want this for my family, for me, for my children. So I stopped smoking, and my husband stopped smoking at the same time.
Okay.
So we both stopped at the same time.
Okay.
To protect our children from passive smoking, to as well protect them so they don't smoke when they grow up themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
To protect our health, so my own health, to save money. So we had many good reasons to stop.
Okay. And once you realize the benefits you are going to gain from quitting smoking, did you say tomorrow we are stopping? Did you set a date or a timetable, to try and cut down on the number of cigarettes you smoke per day? How did you do it?
In fact, it took me a while to, at one point, I started to think I wanted to stop. I want to stop smoking, but I couldn't do it that day or the day after. So it took me a few months to take a firm decision. Say, from now, I am really going to stop. So I seek the help of a therapist, a counselor, and we attended some counseling. So we spoke with a person who has experience in supporting people in stop smoking. So this counselor helped us with to believe really that we could stop, that we had the inner power, the willpower to stop smoking. So I went to this therapist, and I have a one-to-one session. And when I left that therapy, I never smoked again.
There are various methods that they use to help people stop smoking. For example, the nicotine gum, the nicotine patch, the nicotine inhaler. Did you use any of these?
I didn't. I only use the help of this therapist,
Okay.
who basically convinced me that I had the willpower to stop.
Okay.
And I didn't use any of these helps or supports that other people use very successfully.
Okay.
I think for other people it's a real help, but I didn't use it myself.
And is there any particular time that you almost stepped back a bit and maybe thought of, oh, I can have a cigarette today? Was there any such situation after you had given up?
Not in my case, no. I never smoke again. I was determined not to. And I am well aware. I was a very heavy smoker. I smoked for 20 years.
Yes.
30 cigarettes per day. So
Yes.
that's a lot. I was a very heavy smoker. And I think if I smoke one cigarette, I will go back to smoking. So I don't want to risk it. I will
Okay.
not smoke one cigarette.
For some of our viewers, they could be wondering that what can they do to stop smoking? What advice have you got for them?
I feel very humble because I think it's a difficult thing to do, to stop smoking, and I don't judge people who doesn't manage to stop smoking. But I encourage people to stop smoking. It's bad for your health and it's bad for your family. It's bad for your pocket. So I encourage people to stop smoking. I think what I would say is that everybody has within themselves the capacity to stop. Once you choose to stop, it is a difficult job, but you can do it. Everybody can do it. And I must say that since I stopped smoking, a few of my friends have stopped because they said, if you, Beatriz, such a heavy smoker, stop, I can do it. And they succeed.
For those who have never smoked, for example, now, advise the teenagers who have never smoked, what advice could you give them in case, they get some bit of peer pressure to start smoking?
I think the advice I would give is don't start, because once you start, it's so difficult to stop. It's such a job to stop. And you can be yourself, you can be great, you can be admired by others, you can be for other things than the smoking. So I would say don't start. Once you start, it's very difficult. 20 years down the line, I was 14. It took me 20 years until I was 34. I had 3 children to stop. But now, I have recovered a lot, but I have a little bit of asthma that I never had before.
Okay.
So that is the price I pay for 20 years of smoking.
And there are some symptoms, of course, you get. They are called withdrawal symptoms when you've just stopped smoking. For example, the dizziness, because more oxygen is getting to your brain than the carbon monoxide, and the dry cough you get because they say the lungs are clearing of tar. Of course, you get less sleep as your body is struggling to settle into the new routine. What withdrawal symptoms did you get?
For me, the most significant one was kind of cold, I don't know how you call it, cold things in your mouth. How do you call it?
Sores.
Yes, sore mouth. And apparently it's quite common when you stop smoking, that it feels like it feels sore mouth. And I didn't know it was common, so I was worried at the beginning, maybe I have cancer or something.
Okay.
But, so that was one. Of course, I was in a bad mood for a few days, so my friends and my family had to cope with that.
Okay.
And then this question of gaining weight, that was the most significant. Wanted to eat something, but otherwise I felt very well. Very soon I felt healthier, and I felt I could run and go upstairs faster, and I could. So I enjoyed the benefits of stopping very quickly as well.
Okay. And you also mentioned at one time that there is someone you always used to give a few cigarettes. Is it a homeless man that you used to give cigarettes? So when you find him on the street, what do you tell him these days?
I just say hello, but it's true that through the cigarettes you create some social networks as well.
Okay.
So I told him I stopped smoking, so I can't share my cigarettes anymore, and he said, "Well done, I'm proud of you. I will one day," he said to me. And I said, "I hope you find the courage and the strength, the inner strength." But this man has a lot of difficulties in life, so I think it's difficult for him. But he encouraged me and said, "Well done."
Okay.
And so I have to find another way to speak with him that is not offering him a cigarette.
And how do you speak with him now?
Well, I just say hello. The first time I saw him, I say hello, and I said, "Mike, I don't have a cigarette to offer anymore. I stopped smoking." And now I just stop and say hello and say, "How are you doing? How is life?" But it's a shame, I don't have these cigarettes to share anymore. But
And there is also this issue of a bad smell. You never smell fresh when you smoke. Did it affect you?
Of course, I never knew that I smelled so badly, because I was a smoker myself. But now when if I'm on the streets, I'm in the supermarket and I cross with someone who just had a cigarette, and I think, they smell so awful, and I realize how awful I used to smell myself, but I never knew.
Okay.
And people, when they come to our flats now, they say, it's so much better now, it smells wonderful, and before it used to smell like an ashtray.
Oh, right. You mean that your entire house was
Yes, finally, yes.
Okay.
I didn't know, but people tell me that now.
Okay.
They didn't used to tell me before because they didn't want to be rude, but now I don't smoke, they tell me.
Okay, all right. Anyway, Beatrice, thank you very much for sharing your experience with us, and I only hope that if any of our viewers is a smoker and they would like to quit the habit, what you've shared with us will be an inspiration for them to give up smoking. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay.
It has been a pleasure.
Okay, thanks. If you're planning to give up smoking, here are some tips you may find useful. 1. Set a day that you plan to quit smoking for good. And secondly, write down all the reasons as to why you are going to quit smoking for good. Once you've written down the reasons, you will always refer to them in case you are tempted to smoke again. And thirdly, on the day you plan to quit smoking, make sure you do not have any tobacco-related products with you. In the first few days after quitting smoking, you will experience withdrawal symptoms. Here is some advice on how to cope with them. An intense desire to smoke because the brain is missing the nicotine. Always go back to the list of reasons why you are quitting smoking. Coughing as your lungs are clearing of tar. Having warm drinks will help. Hunger as your metabolism is changing and food tastes better. Eat plenty of fruit and vegetables, chew sugar-free gum, and drink lots of water. Constipation and diarrhea as your body returns to normal. Drink lots of water, eat fresh fruit and vegetables, do a lot of exercise. If it persists, seek advice from a healthcare professional. Trouble sleeping due to nicotine leaving the body. Cut down on tea and coffee, get more fresh air, and exercise. Dizziness as more oxygen is going to the brain than carbon monoxide. This should be able to stop after a few days. Mood swings, poor concentration, irritability. Signs of nicotine withdrawal. Warn your family and friends, and try to talk problems over with someone you trust. Once again, I'm Veronica Josephine, and thank you for watching. Goodbye.